Hello, everyone. Good morning. Liam and I here are coming to you this morning before Charlotte wakes up, hopefully. We're going to crank this video out. This is video number 3 of our series, The Real Talk, an explanation of God and sex. If you recall, am I already boring you? If you recall, video 1, we set the stage for this ebook and talked about the relevance of refreshing or revisiting this topic of sex and talking about it from the perspective of God. And then the second video, we really walked through more of kind of what we may or may not have heard in the talk, what the typical script is, and how even those of us raised in Christian homes can have had a very misleading understanding of God and sex, and quite often not having those two combined in any conversation. And so that leads us to video number 3, where we are going to dive into chapter 1. And our structure here is we're going to pick apart what I was coining as kind of the talk script. Now, remember, this is very generalized. This is kind of what the typical talk is that people may or may not have gotten as they were growing up, whether from health class, parents, guardians, what have you. And to refresh you, what I was kind of saying the typical script is that sex is something you should avoid. You are too young for it. Again, we're acting as if you're in middle school or high school right now. And that it is bad. It's best to wait until you're married to ever have sex. But if you can't wait, make sure you use protection because pregnancy and STDs. So that's the typical talk, very generally speaking. And we're going to first dive into that question of, is sex actually bad according to God? And so we're going to start in Genesis and look at a couple verses there. Now, I want to set the stage for Genesis because Genesis is the first book of the Bible, and we're going to look at the very first chapter, which is so cool that the very, very beginning of the Bible answers this question for us. The first chapter. So it's not a hidden answer within the Bible. Anyone who's ever asked, is sex in the Bible? The answer is yes. And the other thing I just want to point out before we dive in is to remember as I read these verses, Genesis is written as kind of a poem. It's not a literal scientific document of how the earth was created. It's written by Moses for the Israelites, which is God's people, which would be you and me at this point. And it is meant to woo our hearts closer to God by better understanding His heart. It's not meant to say that like literally the earth was created in 7 days. So anytime you've heard, religion thinks, Genesis is the creation story and science thinks it's the Big Bang, it's not two opposite theories. They marry together beautifully. And Genesis is not meant to be a literal scientific document. It's meant to be a poem that helps us understand God's heart and why and how He created us. Okay, so with that foundation, we're going to dive in. And bear with me because at first you're going to wonder how in the world is all of this relevant to sex. But we're going to bring it back around and you're going to be like, wow, that's amazing. I never saw that coming. So our verse from Genesis is verses 26 through 28 and 31. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, after our likeness." God created mankind in His image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fertile and multiply." God looked at everything He had made and found it very good. So rich, so much in these verses. There's people who have spent years and years and years just picking apart the verses I read to you because they have so much meaning in there. But we're going to focus on the things that are relevant to our question at hand, and that is sex bad? So the very first line in that series of verses I read was, "Then God said, let us make human beings in our image after our likeness." Okay, we're in creation, and supposedly the only thing that's already in being is God. So who is us? Who was God with at the very beginning as He was creating humankind? Well, the cool thing is He's referring to the Trinity. He's referring to Father, Son, Holy Spirit, who was, is, now, and ever shall be. I always mix that up. I always forget how that goes. Anyway, and it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. That's how it goes. I should just reference my notes. It says it right here. And so the Trinity is already here at the beginning of creation story. And so God is saying, let us create mankind in our image and in our likeness. So if he's creating humankind in his image and in his likeness and his image, he is the Trinity. He's also, the most simply put, love. The Trinity is this continual exchange of love between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And love begets love. And so when he's creating us in his image and in his likeness, he's creating us in the image of this exchange of love between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. See, like, mind blown. So cool. So cool. I also took the liberty of looking at Merriam-Webster just to find out, like, what does image and likeness actually mean? And so according to Merriam-Webster, it says that image is defined as a semblance or exact likeness, and likeness is defined as a copy. So we are made in the semblance or copy of God, of the Trinity, of this exchange of love. And so this leads me to, it makes so much more sense why, if we fast forward all the way to Mark, the book of Mark in the New Testament, and when he's saying what the most important commandments are, he says first, what? Love your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And then second, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. Why does he say that? Well, because we were created out of love, with a capital L, to love, to participate in this love. We were created to participate in this Trinitarian love and to imitate it as male and female. And that is just so, so profound. The meanings of that, the implications of that are huge. And right there we find our purpose in life. Our purpose is to participate in this love, to experience this love with God, and to then share it with others and to bring God's love to other people. None of this is new news. This is what we've all been raised with as Christians, but it's putting it kind of in a different spin, in a different light, as we're talking about why he created us male and female, why he gave us these desires, and why he gave us sex. So to continue on in answering our question, the next line says, he blessed them, and God said to them, be fertile and multiply. Well, what does fertile and multiply mean? Well, if we're looking at it very literally, in order to multiply and have more humans, there must be sex, right? And so he's saying, have intimate relationship, be fertile and multiply. He's also, if we look at it figuratively, we're not looking at it literally, he's also saying, be fertile for my love, to plant in your heart so that you can then multiply my love with other people, right? So that you can experience my love the Lord your God, and then you can love other people having been loved by me, and therefore loving your neighbor. So being fertile and multiply can be looked at very literally, of like, have kiddos, or it could be looked at very, very figuratively, of be fertile for my love, because we all know out of the hardness of our hearts, we can very easily shut out his love. And then the very next line that I read was that God looked at everything he had made and found it very good. He found it very good. How cool is that? So if we were even questioning, this whole be fertile and multiply, like, yeah, he said to do it, but it's out of necessity to keep the human race going. It's not, because he thought it was good. No. The very next line says he found it very good. And he's not just referring, Moses in this verse is not just referring to being fertile and multiply being good. He's talking about his entire creation, and male and female being very good. And so, is sex bad according to God? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is just so beautiful as we read this and better understand this. And then what's really neat is, let's go back to that verse that I read you. Well, I guess I didn't read that part yet. Am I getting too excited? Yeah, I'm getting into the next video. Never mind. We're going to hold that thought. We're going to stop there. We have lots more to unpack. I probably created more questions than I answered in this video, but that's why this is a series. We're going to keep going. And so our first question that we had to answer was, is sex bad according to God? And the answer is, according to God's design, no. Now, we do experience sex in today's world, oftentimes not according to God's design. And so that's a whole nother realm of topics that we will address as we keep going. So with that, I hope you have a great day. Stay healthy and tune in next time. Bye.